Every 28 hours in this country, a black person is murdered.
Well, it's only murder if they're unjustly killed. And that is an extremely strangled way of wording it. Sounds to me like you're pushing an agenda. Would be a shame if a YouTuber came along and debunked it.
By security officers, police officers, or vigilantes.
Let me reword this for you. Every 28 hours, a criminal who happens to be black is killed while fleeing from the law or resisting arrest. And even so, one police shooting every 28 hours, it seems a lot when you say it like that, but let me do the maths for you. One every 28 hours is approximately 313 a year out of a population of nearly 320 million. Just to put it in perspective.
There are more people in prisons and jails today than there were enslaved in this country.
That is absolutely and completely wrong. A complete lie to anybody who can be bothered or has the brains to use Google. I'll assume the skill of using Google is beyond these retards, so let's look at the actual figures. A list of the countries with the most people in prison in the world shows the number of US prisoners at about 2 million, while America received over 10 million slaves from Africa that actually made it to American soil. Did you not even look into this a little bit?
Everybody's seen the hashtag at this point. They've seen the slogans and the protests. What is Black Lives Matter and how did it come about?
Black Lives Matter is a project that's designed to celebrate the humanity, the brilliance, and resilience of black people in a world that devalues black life.
That's absolute cobblers. How the fuck does the world devalue black life? Do white people get reduced sentences for killing black people? And it's not a project. Projects don't burn down towns.
And we use Black Lives Matter as a place where folks can come together online and offline to collaborate, to strategize.
For how best to burn down towns?
We've seen the hashtag take off, but we've also seen spins on that hashtag, like all lives matter. What do you think about that?
Well, I think that it points towards a utopian reality that we don't live in right now.
Well, I won't argue that we don't live in a utopia, but I've seen more than one video of white people being attacked by Black Lives Matter activists just for being white. Which is surprising considering a good portion of people propping up this hate movement are white, spineless retards guilty about being white.
So when you look at what's going on in the streets right now and the protests that have been basically non-stop for a couple of months, do you think that this is the birth of a new national movement? And if so, what is the movement?
Young people have decided that enough is enough and that it's no longer time for slow, incremental change.
I think slow is the only word capable of describing these Black Lives Matter retards. And the last black person to receive the cold bullet of justice was shot by a black police officer. And nobody even waited to hear the fucking evidence. They just saw the chance to burn, loot, and they took it. And the fact that you, a reasonable middle-class face of Black Lives Matter, in fact one of the co-founders of Black Lives Matter, are condoning the violence and not condemning it, says a whole fucking lot about the movement.
And we need folks who have been in the movement for a long time to really be supporting their capacity to win.
Do you think that Al Sharpton should actually step aside, not be in front of the camera, and maybe put forward a younger face?
It's a different moment today, and so the needs are different, the conditions are different.
Yeah, get out of here, granddad, with your equality for all ideas. Yeah, me and my homies want to burn this town to the ground and beat up whiteys for what history books said they did to us once upon a time. You know what would be an interesting solution to this problem? Offer all Black Lives Matter activists a free plane ticket to Africa, specifically the part of Africa where their ancestors were taken from. We brought you here, so we're giving you the option to go back. How many would take them up on that offer, I wonder?
Can you name some of the younger people who are just as involved that we might not know about?
Folks like the Black Youth Project, folks like Millennial Activists United in Ferguson and Tribe X in Ferguson and St. Louis, Hands Up United in Ferguson.
Yeah, find the nicest pictures you can for the organisation, not the burning and looting they've all been doing after this photo op. Nearly every single organisation simply out for blood has had a fair share of people willing to be the apologists and the face of that movement. So you can't simply blame the movement, because then you're blaming me, the nice face of the movement, and I'm not looting. That makes you racist. Are you racist? Get fucked.
So there's obviously so much momentum right now for the movement, and the news cycle is very much tuned into what's going on, but where does it go from here?
More burning, more looting, more free stuff, as long as the media keep pushing the good parts of the movement to exploit the sympathy from the stupid, I imagine.
Making sure that we are really moving towards pushing for our demands to be adopted at the federal level, at the state level, and at the municipal level.
Keep pushing. So in other words, burning, looting and rioting isn't enough. You need to keep pushing until an unreasonable ultimatum is met. I mean, what's next? Burning white people at the stake? Actually, I probably shouldn't be giving these people ideas.
That there is adequate and consistent data that is collected across the country about police killings and officer-involved shootings.
And on top of that, they should release the conviction rates of those demographics. For example, if 45% of violent crimes were committed by black people, and 35% of the people killed by police were black, you'd cry about being overrepresented in these statistics because black people make up around 12% of the population, completely disregarding the fact that they're underrepresented in the crime statistics, the only statistic that matters when dealing with suspected criminals shot by police.
Another demand that young people are moving in this moment is that there be accountability measures attached to that data. And so if a police department shows a pattern of discriminatory policing, that they wouldn't be receiving federal funding. In other words, our tax dollars.
You realise how unrealistic, unreasonable and fucking stupid that sounds. They're a government organisation. That's the whole reason people pay tax. So they can have the police and fire service on standby at all times. Stop funding the police so they can't do the hundreds of other things people depend on them to do. Simply because one small portion of one demographic is too stupid to realise that if you commit more crimes, you're more likely to be shot. Here's a radical idea. Why don't we try and raise the living standards for poor communities so they don't see crime as the only option to turn to in life, instead of blaming it on an authority which is designed to stop said crime?
There's been tons of peaceful protests all over. There's also been some incidents of vandalism and things getting a little more violent. What tactics do you advocate and where do you draw the line?
We advocate those types of tactics that really shake up the comfort level.
Well, I don't know about you, but that sounds to me like she's condoning the actions of these criminals, burning legitimate businesses and destroying innocent people's cars, and attacking journalists and white people randomly in the streets. You heard it here first, Elisa Garcia condones violence and looting. What a bitch.
What do you say to people what do you say to critics who say, smashing property windows and storefronts and some looting is actually counterproductive to the movement?
My response to that would be, do we have the same level of outrage when a window gets broken as we do when a young black person is killed in our communities?
And Elisa Garcia wins the gold. What a wonderful display of question-dodging gymnastics there. Honestly, I hope the next riot that kicks off happens in her hometown and she gets her car and house burnt to the ground, because she won't mind a bit. So to sum up, black lives do matter just as much as white lives, up to a point. Once you cross the line and start destroying rather than creating or attempting to create or work towards something productive, you become useless to society, and your life doesn't matter anymore. So lovely viewers, if you were a protester, what store would you consider looting and why? I personally would consider looting a sex shop because I could build myself a throne made of dildos. The comments that make me laugh the most I'll put at the end of my next video, and as always, thank you for your time.